We're taking a look at how familiar TV show formats could work for us online. And coming up in this next section, I'm going to talk a little bit about how these formats, the various acts, teasers, and cliffhangers can work for you and how you can save your audience time. When we talk about a television format and a TV hour, we actually really talk about less than an hour, because if you think a TV show usually has ad breaks and so in between, and there are messages that the television channel wants to convey about other shows. There are sponsors who want to place information. And so if you look at that hour, it really is only 48 minutes in the case of dramas and series that you see. And in a funny way, this has also translated to modern shows that are being produced for Netflix. So even streaming shows, although they don't have advertising breaks, have a format or a formula that follows this specific idea and in doctrine, just purely because writers have been writing for almost 100 years around this kind of structure and how it works. So there you go, seeing that 48-minute gap, and that's why you see the little ad breaks in between. In a similar way, a 24-minute show is really a TV half hour. In fact, some sitcoms are really only 21 minutes. But that is a beginning of a cue for us to go and look at timings and how timings could really be beneficial when we do a talk. My thought is that viewers are already used to this 16:9 space, and in that space, they've become used to seeing these shows and seeing or knowing how these shows behave. There are breaks, there are natural moments of tension, and then there's a release. And so one gets to read during a show, even a drama or a movie, when there's going to be a break to go for coffee and when you can come back, right? Not everybody pauses and stops the whole experience. Sometimes the tension is just too much for us and we spend the tense times in the kitchen, right? So let's go and see how this can really play out if you now take those acts. I'm taking a half an hour and showing you 3 acts in a teaser. Usually it's a 3-minute teaser, and then equi-spaced, or sometimes the pace at the top, the first act may be shorter so that it feels like there's pace. In the middle, they'll stretch it, and towards the end, the acts would become shorter again so that it seems to speed up as we go. So it doesn't have to be verbatim. But here's the interesting thing. If we go and look at one of these acts, which is, in this instance, the second act of a half an hour show, and I go and look at the slides, you'll get a sense of how many slides one needs to create in order to get through this 7-minute break. And if you see the slides that I've used until now, you'll realize that I have about 2 or 3 more slides to land, because I'm kind of halfway in what it is that this section was about. And the moment that this idea lands for you, that structure is not something that captures or forces us into a box. It actually sets us free to communicate anything that we want. The moment that you realize that, you're going to really be in a good space. And that's why I want to go and look at how these acts and TV breaks work out and what it is that you can take from it. Now at the top there you see Sid Field's line, which is the 3 acts of a movie. And remember that what a movie structure or feel is like is 30 minutes, then an hour for the second act, and the third act is usually another 30 minutes, because it wraps up quite quickly. As I was talking about the speed and the pace of things, they usually have in a movie about half an hour to set up, and if you think about it, it is usually that half an hour is split into 3 10-minute segments. There's the condition and the situation, there's the hero and the hero's problem as it builds, and then the force that comes and the stuff that's going to catapult us into the story. That all happens quite quickly in that first half an hour. And remember that it's going to have a hook and an inciting incident, and those are things that are going to pull us in and going to make us love it. From there, the story works in the second act to pace out a little bit better and go into more detail. Now, it doesn't mean that your talk has to be 120 minutes. You can bring this into a 4-minute talk and say, a minute is my intro, my first act, the second act is 2 minutes, and the third act is just another minute while I wrap it up. If you're going to look at a 1-hour show, I would seriously suggest that we look at that line in the middle, because it has 6 acts, as you can tell, and at the top of it there's a teaser, and at the end of it there's a cliffhanger. This format is fantastic and works extremely well for a talk. And that's why I'm going to talk through this a little bit in the next section, and we're going to work around this format for a talk that you may be preparing next. I would say that the real reason that I also enjoy this format very much is if you have 48 minutes and you think about what a TV show can accomplish in 48 minutes, let's look at a typical drama. There would be lead characters, there would be support characters, and there's, well, your hero. There's also the anti-hero or the antagonist. The antagonist is the bad force that gets set up in the 48 minutes. Various scenes get set up in 48 minutes. Various conflicts get set up and resolved in 48 minutes. If it's a series, there is a grand problem that each episode faces. And so all of this information can be shared with you in 48 minutes and leave you with a satisfying ending and a cliffhanger that makes you want to watch the next episode. And that's why I think that it's possible to do the same for a talk. Here's the beauty of it. In this time and age that we live in, where time is so incredibly precious, think about how grateful your audience will be if you could demonstrate everything that you wanted to in 48 minutes and still afford them 12 minutes to go and prepare their day for the rest of what they need to do, anything else that they need to go and get ready, or get ready for their next webinar, because that's going to be somebody who probably is going to overrun, be unprofessional and be unprepared, and it'll be all confusing. So structure really helps you to get all of these things in place, and that's why there's this little exercise. Now, this is just a high-level show plan that I have for you. See if you can get one central idea per act. So it's very simple. If you download the show planning chart, you'll see that it is that diagram that I was showing you with the breaks in between. You don't necessarily have to place breaks there, but go and imagine what it is at the top of the hour that you will have as your teaser to say, come into the show, stay tuned, because that's what I'm going to offer you. What is the priority that you want to share with them first in the first act, and then a lower priority towards third act, by the fourth act a high priority or something that lightens the energy again and builds it, and then act 5 and act 6. See if you can put those into this exercise and just place for the moment roughly some thoughts around what it is that you will do in your next webinar.